Hey folks, we're going to look at some of the different things that you might be able to find on our seismograph. So every day when you look at our seismograph, you may find some kind of a little blip or a little bloop or something like that on there, or you may see a big earthquake or something. So we just want to look at what some of those different things look like. So I'm currently at the today, it happens to be June 8th, 2021. And what do I see on here? There's kind of three little things here, and I don't think any of these is too much of anything. Um, these look like just kind of blips. And if it's small, something like this, it could be something like a quarry blast. It could be that's in the area. It could be just something local that happened, or it could be a spider walking on the seismograph, or it could just be noise, just a little higher background noise for just a second there. So it doesn't look like there's too much on this, and we're just going to page back through the last few days here. Doesn't look like too much there. Not too much there. It looks like this right over here could be a spike, a little electronic noise. The seismograph is kind of like a microphone. And so every once in a while you get a little pop or a little hiss or something in it that is going to show up as a real sharp spike like this. This looks like it might be somebody closing the door to the seismograph area. It's in kind of a back hallway, and not a lot of people go back there, but every once in a while we do open the door, and sometimes that shows up as an arrival on the seismograph. Let's go back a little farther. Absolutely nothing there, very low background. Now there's an earthquake right there. So how do I know that's an earthquake? Well, there's kind of a big initial thing, and then it kind of quiets down, and then gets louder again, and then gets kind of longer wavelength here. So you can kind of see that this part looks a little bit different. So this is definitely an earthquake. I haven't looked up exactly where this one is, but that's a recent one. Okay, now here you see a few different things. Up here you can see two earthquakes, one right here, and then kind of quieting down here and running through here. Another one right here, and I happen to remember that these two are both from Oregon, almost the exact same location and the exact same magnitude. So that's why they look so similar. Now this stuff down here is garbage. So this is the fact that the seismograph was getting a little bit off center, and I had to come in and tap it a few times to get it to go back to some reasonable area here. The electronics is kind of touchy on these things, and so when you tap there's a little green box. You tap the little green box, it's going to jump around. And then, so it was a little low here, and I tapped it and it went too low here, and then it went back up here, and I tapped it again here. And then I really kind of tapped the hell out of it here, and finally gave up around here, and then it kind of eventually went back down to background. Now, in the next hour, right at here, you can see this is another earthquake. This is actually a fairly small, fairly close earthquake. This is from Nebraska. This looks like a spike of electronic noise over here. There's another earthquake. This is definitely an earthquake. And you can see a very high spike at the very beginning of P waves, and then it kind of diminishes here. And then these are probably surface waves coming in sometime after. So this is a very nice earthquake right there. Okay, this is a major screw up on the seismograph. So this is, we had major issues with the seismograph computer. We ended up missing quite a bit of data here, and the data that we did pick up through here is very distorted. So when you see something like that, means the thing is going haywire. We actually had to change the seismograph computer for a little while and re-image the old one. And you can see this is more of the same. This is just missing data. So the seismograph was down for quite a period of time here. This is definitely not a thing. This looks like again, tapping the thing and it just being crazy here. This is probably a door opening. This is probably a door goes in there. Here's what appears to be a very distant but pretty big earthquake. You see not very much in here, just very small waves, but then the surface waves. Look at these surface waves coming in for a long time too, for like over an hour. So that must be a pretty big, pretty distant earthquake. Now jump back to October 17th, 2018, because I happen to know that right down here, this is a quarry blast. So one of the quarries north of town was doing some blasting that day, and it was kind of a twin blast here. Boom, boom, right there. And I know this because a friend of mine lived nearby there and told me exactly when this went off. So this is definitely a quarry blast right in here. This here looks like just a few surface waves. So this must have been a very distant earthquake kind of running through here. But we didn't seem to pick up any of the P waves or S waves, just the surface waves. Now this weird looking thing is actually me taking the cover off of the seismograph. So for the face-to-face class, we often will go down there and have a look at the seismograph, and as soon as you take the cover off of it, it just goes nuts. And so it's very loud, very noisy, and then I put the cover back on here. And then for the second lab, did the same thing here, and you can see again, very weird looking stuff here, but that's just me taking the cover off and putting it back on. Another earthquake right in here, and you can see this one looks like a small but fairly close one, maybe something from Oklahoma or that area. Here you can see a little bit higher background, and this can be caused by just bad weather off the East Coast sometimes. Sometimes you get just a very high background, a lot of vibration in here. And that can come about because of weather, because of waves pounding on the shorelines. This is probably somebody taking the cover off, probably me taking the cover off, and it just goes absolutely bonkers. Here we see some noise, and this is noise probably coming from the cable, I'm guessing. So how can you tell it's noise? Let's highlight it and extract it, and then we can zoom in on it. And it just doesn't look very natural. You have a lot of places where it just suddenly drops down, then kind of goes back up here, drops down, back up. And it's not kind of even on both sides. Compare that to, say, this little blip over here, and we'll zoom in on that one. This one looks more natural. You can see there's an up and down, up and down, up and down, and the downs match the ups pretty well. And so it looks like the actual pendulum of the seismograph is bouncing up and down versus the other situation where it's just kind of static. It's just kind of, it's up and down, but it's not equal on both sides or not similar on both sides. So those are some of the things that you can see on the seismograph. I'm sure there's a lot more, and we'll cover them as they come up. But be sure to ask questions about anything you see on the seismograph, and hopefully we'll find some good stuff.